Hi there, YouTube. That black blob right there is my cat. And as you can see, I have a different background. I got really tired of the mess in the background of my videos, or rather, my efforts to try and avoid it. So, that's a picture of Copenhagen seen from somewhere high. The tower right there is the municipality tower, the main building of Copenhagen. So, yeah, so this is week 11 in the lockdown here in Denmark. And for me, it's been wow. Yeah. Some of you might know, and some of you don't know, that I have been on sick leave since January 6th with stress and depression and bad old feet that just can't do the work anymore. That is the only job that I can get. Which brings me to kind of a subject of the day. I don't know how many of you know, but I have had a shitload of different jobs in my life. I started out as a 15-year-old 46 years ago, working in a small factory, and then I moved on to work in a little bigger factory, and I got my driver's license, and I started driving as a distribution chauffeur. And then I got into driving a forklift, and I did that for a few years in different companies in their stores, storages, and I didn't like that kind of job, mostly because of some of the humans I was forced to work with, which were uneducated males mostly that were so misogynistic in their way of talking about women that it was driving me fucking nuts. So I aspire to get into working with something else than being just an unskilled labor. I am still an unskilled labor. I don't have any education except ninth grade. But I did have an interest in computers, and around 1992 I was on a unemployment course where I learned a shitload about myself and my abilities and what I could do. So very shortly after that, I got myself a job as a kind of a data information technology consultant thing in a company with 50 people working there. At the time, they didn't even have a network tying their computers together. They didn't have email. They didn't have internet. And I worked there for about 3 years and had one of the best jobs of my in my life. I also made quite a lot of money, a lot more than I was used to, almost twice the wages I was used to as an unskilled chauffeur and whatnot. And 3 years after 3 years, I had to get myself another job because they were outsourcing all their information technology shit to other companies, much to my regret, because I could have handled all that they were throwing at me without a hitch, actually. But the new CEO we got in that company just didn't like me. So after that, I had a couple of other jobs as a web designer consultant and other kind of information technology jobs like IT supporter, web supporter, internet supporter, all kinds of shitty jobs. And from around 2000, year 2000 and forward, I had mostly temp jobs. I just couldn't find myself a steady job. And when I turned 52, I got fired from my last job due to budget cuts in Copenhagen municipality. At that time, I worked as a social worker, mostly with deeply criminal youngsters and some mentally ill youngsters. I really loved that job because I was as a kind of a temp working there, but I worked at least 10 to 12 days a month there, and I earned very good money. One of the best paying jobs I had in my life, even though I only worked about 10 to 12 days a month. And that was my last really good job, actually. And that was back in 2011. And since then, I've been struggling to find myself a job, and I've had three dishwasher jobs, a lot of small temp jobs. I even worked as a temp teacher for a while, and in January 6th, my stress level was so high that I don't know if I had the coronavirus at the time, but I was very sick for about 2 weeks. And usually, when I get the flu, it's 3, 4 days, and then I'm on my feet again and back to work. But this time, I think it was on the 10th or 11th day, I was throwing up and coughing like a crazy and still had a very high fever. So when it was kind of over, I went to the doctor, and that was in around January 20th or so, and we talked for about 40 minutes, and she asked me a lot of questions. With the story goes that about 7 years ago, I was sick for 7 months with stress disorder. I had all kinds of symptoms, vision impairment, high blood pressure, and a lot of other physical symptoms, and I also had anxiety attacks. And that got back to me around while I was sick here in January. So yeah, I've been on sick leave ever since, which here in Denmark is not as big a catastrophe as it is in the United States of America. I still get paid from my job because they couldn't fire me until I had at least 120 sick days, and after that I had 3 months where they have to pay me before they can let me go, and that means that I get my last pay on July the 1st. Um, yeah, so after that I have to apply for municipality sick leave, which is not too bad. And right now, I am beginning the process of applying for early retirement due to my stress and my feet and whatnot. Because being 61 years old, I don't think I'm gonna get myself a job again, unless it's maybe like a dishwasher, but my feet are just not up to it anymore. This carcass is just getting too old for that kind of shit jobs. I might be able to have a job as I don't know, um, sitting in an office, answering the phone, answering emails, and stuff like that. But that kind of job, a person my age just doesn't get. That's just the way things are. So, yeah, even here in Denmark, there is a lot of ageism. I remember about what is it, 8 years ago, I applied for a shitload of jobs, I sent over 1,000 applications in 3, 4 months, and I was called in to be interviewed for two of those jobs. And the ones interviewing me were like people in their late 20s, early 30s, um, and for apparent reasons, I didn't get the job probably because I was quite a lot smarter than them, even if I tried to tone it down. My work career the last 20 years showed that I was capable of doing their jobs. And the job I was applying for were under them. They would have to be my bosses. And being the person that I am, I can be quite intense and very assertive. Even though at job interviews I tried to tone it down, this probably scared them into not hiring me, even though I am a very capable worker in most areas. But yeah, that's life. Um, I'm not really complaining. I had a pretty good run, but now I'm burned out. I'm tired. Uh, I can't anymore. I'm 61 years old and I just need some fucking peace of mind. And this early retirement is kind of a new thing, and it pays around what I would get as a part time dishwasher, which is not much, but if you're not working, you get to pay a little less taxes, which would benefit me, of course. So, yeah, that's where my life is at right now. And with this whole corona lockdown and shit, I'm, of course, bored as fuck. So that's one of the reasons I am back making videos. Peace and don't panic.